Hello, everybody. Welcome to Inspiration 44. Today is November 24th, 2012. It is a Saturday. Today is the last Saturday before the Saturday next week when I actually drive away and begin to drive towards Tennessee. And we have a lot to do. we have a lot to do. And I have titled this little Inspiration 44, Now I Know Why. And I could add tons of things after that, but the biggest thing I'm going to add is now I know why people hire and they spend thousands of dollars to pack up homes. And now I know why people actually hire people to actually drive their stuff across the country or wherever it is they're going. Now I know why. Isn't that like the story of your life? It's like you go ahead and you try something and you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And the next thing you know, you're in the middle of it and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? It's kind of what I feel. I'm a little overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. Isn't it neat that you can say the word overwhelmed really like powerfully? Overwhelmed. Yes. And yet, I have to tell you, in all honesty, that I know we'll get it done because there's no way we can't get it done. We have to get it done. And it just reminds me to think of all of the different tasks in our lives. I mean, think about it. You know, you've gone through different things, whether it's planned for a wedding, graduated from college, taking care of an estate after a parent died, had a flat tire on the side of the road. We end up getting through things, don't we? And with God, all things are possible to those who believe. Now, I know that's taken totally out of context, but it really is true. In fact, I was playing, looking on my iPad this morning, and there's this application that I use, and this saying just popped up. This is what it says. It says, worry often casts a large shadow for small things. I'll say that again. Worry often casts a large shadow for small things. And I thought, isn't that right? Isn't that right? I mean, we worry so much, at least me, especially with this whole move, man. There's tons of stuff to worry about. And yet, the shadow is sometimes way bigger than whatever the situation is. I've gone through some pretty tough trials in my life, and this is not the worst of them. It truly isn't, and I know that. But right now, it's just feeling a little bit overwhelming. And yet, when you consider the phrase "now I know why," if you fill in the blank afterwards, it's actually kind of a cool thing because you can't have growth unless you're going through situations you've never really gone through before, and you've been challenged. You know what I mean? And so, just a interesting thought. But here's the other thing. Think about this. When the Lord set His motion and plan, when He set His motion and plan to create Christ and to have Him come down here on earth in flesh, human flesh, to be born of a virgin, to be raised with poor parents, to have a common man's job, to not really own a home or even have an extended family like a wife and children, and then to take up the task of, meeting fishermen and tax collectors and other people, and to say, hey, come and follow me, and then ultimately, go and teach in the synagogue and all these things, and then have the religious leaders hate you, and then eventually go to the cross and die on the cross. It would be really easy to say, what is the point of all that? What is the point? Yeah, the guys, the Hebrews back then, they had the scriptures. They were looking for a Messiah. But you know what? On the third day, when Jesus rose from the dead, On the third day, when he up from the grave, he arose. Then the disciples knew why. They're like, oh my gosh, now I know why. And all of the things that Christ said comes back to their memory. When Jesus said, oh, I will destroy this temple in 3 days. When Jesus did various things, the people would remember. And so I know that each of us have our different trials and the different things that we're going through. And we don't know why sometimes, ultimately. Like, I don't know why my mom died at 57 years old of cancer. I don't know why. And I don't know why some people I know who've committed horrific sins that have damaged people's lives for eternity are still living. I don't know why, but God does. And this one thing I do know is that when Jesus came from heaven to earth and he died in my place on the cross for all my sin, and then he died and was buried, and then he rose from the dead. It was because he loves me. It's because he forgave me. And it was because he wants a real relationship with me, because he's a friend of mine. He wants to be a friend. So if you're going through a stressful time, or you're like me and you're like going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Just consider the cross. And then consider the resurrection. Because you know what? A lot of people didn't get the cross. They didn't understand why that cross, how come that cross was so important, so vital. But after Jesus rose from the dead, they knew why. Isn't that great? Isn't that neat to think about? So I hope you guys have a good day. If you're new, please follow me at the number 44 inspiration on Twitter. And leave a comment here if you feel like it. And I will be back tomorrow sometime. I'm not sure when. We'll figure that out. But I also appreciate your prayers. So keep me in prayer. Leave an encouraging note or something for me. That would help me. And I'll talk to you tomorrow right here on Inspiration 44.